You've got to be kidding me. That's the first thing I said when I saw the HOA notice on my door. For months, I had been trying to live peacefully in this neighborhood, paying my dues, keeping my yard clean, following the rules. I thought, this is the perfect place for my family. A quiet suburban home with a nice pool in the backyard. But then I met Karen. You know the type. HOA board member, mid-50s, always peeking through blinds, always carrying a clipboard like she's on a secret mission. People call her the neighborhood watchdog, but honestly, she's more like a hawk hunting for the tiniest mistake. The first time we met, she kindly told me that my garbage bins were 2 inches too close to the road. 2 inches. I laughed it off. Big mistake. Because Karen does not forget. Fast forward a few weeks later, something happened that would spark a full-blown war. You see, I have a pool in my backyard. It's one of the main reasons I bought this house. My kids love it, and I love it even more during summer. But lately, I noticed footprints near the gate and toys that weren't ours floating in the pool. Someone was sneaking in. At first, I thought it was just some kids messing around, until I checked my security camera. Guess who I saw? Karen's son, a grown man in his 20s, climbing over my pool gate like it was a public playground. He even brought friends. That was the last straw. I decided to install a smart lock on my pool gate. This wasn't just about keeping strangers out. It was about keeping my family safe. The very next day, I installed the lock. It was sleek, digital, and secure. I even added a keypad, so I could share access if needed. I thought, problem solved. No more unwanted visitors. Oh, how wrong I was. That evening, as the sun was setting, I saw her, Karen, marching toward my backyard like she owned the place. Her face was red, her eyes were blazing, and she had that HOA rulebook clutched in her hand like a weapon. What did you do to that gate? She demanded, and that, my friends, was the beginning of the storm. Excuse me. I replied, pretending I didn't know what she meant. Karen pointed dramatically at the gate. That thing. That lock. You can't just put that there. It's against HOA regulations. I looked at her calmly. Karen, it's my gate. It's my pool. And that lock is for safety. She scoffed, flipping through her rulebook like a lawyer preparing for trial. Rule 14b states that any alteration to exterior fixtures must be approved by the HOA board. I held back a laugh. It's a lock, Karen. A lock to keep trespassers out. You know, like your son who's been climbing over my fence. Her face froze for a split second. Then she recovered, her voice rising. My son would never do such a thing. Really? Because I have him on camera multiple times. For the first time, Karen looked rattled, but she quickly regained her composure and jabbed her finger at me. You'll regret this. I'm bringing this up at the next HOA meeting. That lock is coming OFF. With that, she stormed off, muttering under her breath about fines, violations, and people who think they're above the rules. I thought that was the end of it. But oh no, Karen wasn't done. 2 days later, I caught her son again, this time standing at my pool gate, yanking on the lock like he was trying to break into Fort Knox. What do you think you're doing? I shouted, walking toward him. He jumped, then turned to me with a smug grin. You can't lock this. The pool is part of the neighborhood. It belongs to everyone. I nearly laughed out loud. Are you serious? This is MY private property. My pool. My gate. You're trespassing. He shrugged. My mom says the HOA has authority over shared amenities. Shared amenities? I repeated, stunned. This isn't a community pool. It's an MY backyard. But before I could finish, he pulled out his phone and said the words that made my blood boil. I'm calling 911. Are you kidding me? I said, my voice echoing across the yard. You're calling the police because I locked my own gate. He smirked, pacing dramatically like he was in a courtroom. Yep, blocking access to HOA property is illegal. My mom told me so. I wanted to rip my hair out. This isn't HOA property. This is MY land. Do you even know what trespassing means? But he ignored me, speaking into the phone. Yes, officer, I'm at address. The homeowner is illegally restricting community access to a pool. Yeah, threatening me too. Threatening? Was this kid serious? I grabbed my phone and started recording. For the record, you are trespassing. This is private property, and I have proof. He rolled his eyes, leaning against the fence like he owned the place. A few minutes later, I heard it. Police sirens. My stomach dropped. This is insane, I muttered under my breath. Karen came running down the street the second she heard the sirens. And oh boy, she was in full Karen mode, screaming about HOA rights, pointing at my gate like it was a crime scene, waving her rulebook in the air. The cops pulled up and stepped out. What's going on here? One of them asked. Before I could speak, Karen jumped in. Officer, thank God you're here. This man is violating HOA regulations and threatening my son. He's blocking access to the community pool. The cop looked confused. Community pool? Karen nodded furiously. Yes, that pool is for everyone. I stepped forward, calm but fuming inside. Officer, that's not true. This is my backyard, my pool. I have the property deed, and I have video proof of her son trespassing multiple times. The cop raised an eyebrow. You have proof. Oh, I have more than proof, I said, pulling out my phone. The officer motioned for me to show the video. I tapped my phone, pulled up the footage, and handed it over. On the screen, clear as day, was Karen's son climbing over my fence, splashing in the pool, and even bringing his friends. The cop's expression changed instantly. He looked at the kid, then at Karen. Ma'am, this is private property. Your son is trespassing. Karen's jaw dropped. What? No, that's not right. The HOA. The officer cut her off. The HOA has no jurisdiction over private property. And this pool is clearly in his fenced backyard. This is not a community pool. Her son tried to speak, but he threatened me. I raised an eyebrow. Really? Because my video also has audio. The officer scrolled further in the video, and sure enough, you could hear the kid saying, "This pool belongs to everyone, and I'm calling 911. The cop turned back to Karen. Ma'am, if I were you, I'd stop before I have to write your son up for trespassing. Karen's face went red, like a tomato about to explode. She opened her mouth to argue, but the officer held up a hand. Enough. The homeowner is in the right. The lock stays. And if either of you steps on his property again without permission, you're going to jail. Understood? Karen didn't respond. Her son muttered something under his breath and stormed off. The cops left, but not before giving me one last piece of advice. Document everything. People like this don't give up easily. I smiled. Oh, trust me, I will. But the best part? The look on Karen's face when her master plan failed. Priceless. A week later, the HOA meeting happened. Karen tried. Oh, she tried. To make me look bad. She brought up unauthorized alterations and violating HOA guidelines. But guess what? I came prepared. I walked in with my property deed, the HOA bylaws, and printed screenshots of the police report. When it was my turn to speak, I laid it all out. Here's the law. Here's the proof. And here's a tip. Stop trespassing on private property. The room was dead silent. A few board members even smirked. Karen looked like she wanted to sink into the floor. The board voted. My smart lock stayed. Karen got an official warning for harassment. And her son, let's just say the whole neighborhood now calls him 911 boy. Since then, nobody has touched my pool. No surprise visits. No drama. Just peace. And every time I walk past Karen's house, I give her a big friendly wave. Because in the end, the best revenge isn't yelling. It's winning. So, what do you think? Was Karen completely out of line? Or do HOAs have too much power? Let me know in the comments. And trust me, this isn't the last HOA story I've got for you.